The words right there from the Buddha himself.
Oh.
And just like a treasure map, these teachings can lead us to something really precious.
Okay, so let's unpack this treasure map then.
Good.
What are these 7 sets? There's like a lot of names in the book.
So we've got the 4 frames of reference, the 4 right exertions, the 4 bases of power, the 5 faculties, the 5 strengths, the 7 factors for awakening, and then finally, the Noble Eightfold Path.
Wow, that's a lot of sets. Some of them even like have overlapping factors. Is there like a meaning behind the numbers?
Yeah.
The book mentions like ancient musical scales and the number 37,
Right.
which is like the total number of factors across all the sets. It says a complete table used for tuning instruments had 37 members. What's that all about?
It really is fascinating. The number 7 has always been connected to completeness and treasures, like the 7 treasures of a universal monarch. So here, it could mean that the Buddhist teachings are giving us a complete and balanced path, a path to understanding the mind and then, achieving liberation. That feeling of wholeness that the number 37 represents. Maybe you felt this too, like you're looking for something, a type of completeness inside. Maybe these teachings, have part of that puzzle.
That's a very interesting thought. But the book also talks about how living a virtuous life is really important for practicing these 7 sets. What's the connection there? Is it just like being a good person first?
It's more than just doing good deeds. In Buddhism, morality is about cultivating skillful mental states and purifying your intentions. It's recognizing how your actions affect you and others and choosing actions that lead to peace and well-being.
So could you give an example of how this skillful action plays out in real life?
Okay, well, think about killing. Obviously, in most cases, it's harmful and unskillful. But the Buddhist view is, deeper than that. It's not just about what you physically do, but also your intention and the mental state behind it. If you kill out of anger or hatred, it makes negative karma, which will come back to you. But even if you kill with a, quote, good intention, like putting an animal out of its misery, it can still have karmic results if it's done with aversion or attachment. So skillful action is about acting from compassion and understanding, recognizing the interconnectedness of everything.
That's a really, thought-provoking way to look at it.
Yeah.
So virtue is the base, but how does it actually connect to the rest of the sets?
Virtue is super important for concentration. When your mind is full of negative emotions and, unskillful thoughts, it's hard to focus. But if you cultivate virtue, you experience this inner joy, this peace, which naturally creates a more stable base for concentration. You also practice things like mindfulness and discernment, but just on a basic level.
Oh, so it's like getting rid of the mental mess to make room for deeper practice.
Right.
But where do concentration and discernment fit in with the 7 sets overall?
Well, the 7 sets actually cover the whole path of Buddhist practice. They're a roadmap for developing virtue, concentration, and discernment, which are the 3 key parts of the path.
Okay.
And the book divides the sets into 2 types, holographic sets and causal loop sets.
Those sound interesting.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
The holographic sets are the frames of reference, the right exertions, and the bases of power. These sets look at one specific factor of the Eightfold Path, like virtue, concentration, or discernment. But the cool thing is, even though they focus on one thing, they need all 3 factors, plus discernment, to work correctly. It's like every piece of a hologram has the whole picture. They're all linked.
That makes sense, showing how all these teachings are woven together.
Exactly.
But what about those causal loop sets?
The causal loop sets are the faculties, the strengths, the factors for awakening, and the Eightfold Path itself. They work in a spiral, so each factor makes the others stronger. As you grow in one, it naturally helps you develop the others, creating a kind of upward momentum toward awakening.
Oh, so it's like a snowball effect.
Yes.
You gain momentum as you practice, and each factor feeds the next.
Exactly.
But the book says concentration depends on right effort and mindfulness.
Yeah.
Why is that? Doesn't that go against the idea of effortless awareness?
That's a really good point. Concentration in Buddhist practice isn't about, zoning out or just waiting for enlightenment to happen.
Right.
It takes active effort, skill, and mindful awareness. Think of it like tuning a musical instrument.
Okay.
You have to get the pressure just right, not too tight, not too loose, to create a beautiful sound. Right effort and mindfulness provide that precise tuning for your mind.
I like that. It really clarifies right effort.
Whoa.
But how do mindfulness, discernment, and concentration work together in practice? Can you give an example from one of the sets?
Sure. Let's use the 4 frames of reference as an example.
Okay.
The book explains that the practice has 3 stages.
Okay.
The first stage is focusing on one of the 4 frames. your body, your feelings, your mind, or mental qualities.
Okay.
It's about seeing these things just as they are, no judgment, no getting lost in stories.
So it's that present moment awareness we talked about.
Yeah.
But what happens after that? What about stages 2 and 3?
The second stage is where it gets really interesting. You start to focus on how things appear and disappear within the frame of reference you chose. Noticing how things arise and cease, how they're all connected. You're not just watching anymore, you're like actively participating, experimenting, and really seeing how your mind works.
Okay.
This is where you start to understand cause and effect, how your thoughts, feelings, and actions are all linked.
So instead of being detached, you're getting involved and really digging into your mind.
Yeah.
But where's discernment in all this?
Discernment is crucial in the second stage.
Right.
It helps you understand the cause and effect you're observing. It's like a scientist carefully studying something, trying to get the basic principles. And as you keep going, your mindfulness and discernment get sharper, leading to more insight. And this eventually brings you to the third stage, a state of complete balance, free from clinging or attachment, even to the practice itself. You reach effortless awareness, a state of pure presence.
It sounds like those wings are really taking you higher at that point.
Yeah.
You start with virtue, then use concentration and discernment to get to new levels of understanding.
Right.
But where does this path ultimately lead? What's the end goal?
The final destination is awakening. And this can happen on 4 levels: stream entry, once returning, non-returning, and arahantship.
4 levels. That's fascinating. What's the difference and what does it really mean to be awakened?
Each level is a deeper understanding and more freedom from suffering. Like, imagine climbing a mountain. Each level gives you a wider, more amazing view. Stream entry is like your first step on the path.
Okay.
You see the summit for the first time and break free from some basic delusions that have kept you trapped in suffering. This sets you on a direct course toward liberation. Once returning means you're higher up the mountain. Attachments get weaker, and you're only reborn once more. Non-returning means you've climbed so high that the pull of this world fades, and you'll awaken fully in a higher realm. And finally, arahantship is the summit. Complete liberation, total freedom from suffering.
So it's not just one moment, but a process of deeper insight and freedom.
Right.
The journey up that mountain.
Yes.
But the book keeps stressing how important discernment is.
Yes.
Why is that?
Discernment is like the experienced guide taking you up the mountain. They make sure you're on the right path, making good choices. They help you through challenges and avoid dangers. The book says discernment grows in stages.
Okay.
You start with a basic sense of right and wrong, then get an intuitive understanding of the 4 noble truths and what's appropriate for each. Ultimately, it's about seeing the truth. Everything changes. There's suffering and there's no fixed self. As you progress, discernment becomes your inner compass, leading you to freedom.
So it's both the guide and the final insight. It's how we awaken and the wisdom that frees us. That's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But with all this talk of virtue, concentration, and discernment, there's one thing I'm still wondering about. The 4 right exertions. It sounds, well, kind of effortful.
Right.
Doesn't that go against the idea of effortless awareness and letting go?
It's a question many people have, and it gets to the heart of Buddhist practice.
Okay.
The 4 right exertions are about using your energy skillfully to move toward awakening. It's about preventing unskillful qualities from even coming up, stopping those that are already there, cultivating good qualities, and nurturing the good ones you have. It's about actively shaping your mind.
So you're not passively waiting for enlightenment. You're putting in the work.
Exactly.
But how do you put in effort without getting tense or attached to the outcome? Seems tricky.
The key is to use skillful effort, not just brute force.
Okay.
It's not about pushing yourself constantly, but applying the right kind and amount of effort, depending on what you're doing. Remember the instrument analogy?
Yeah.
You need the right tension for a harmonious sound.
Right.
The 4 right exertions are about finding that balance in your practice.
Okay, so it's about being mindful and balanced. But what are these unskillful and skillful qualities we're supposed to be working with?
Unskillful qualities are like the weeds in your mind's garden. They're the things that cloud your perception and lead to suffering. Greed, hatred, delusion, restlessness, and doubt.
Okay.
Skillful qualities, though, are like the flowers and fruits you want to grow. They're things like mindfulness, concentration, loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom. They bring clarity, peace, and ultimately freedom.
So the four red exertions are about weeding out the bad and planting good seeds.
Yeah.
But it's not about suppressing or denying those bad qualities.
Right.
That just seems like it would create more inner conflict.
Exactly. The book emphasizes understanding and working with those unskillful qualities, not just hiding them. It suggests different approaches. Observing them, restraining them, using them skillfully, tolerating them, avoiding what triggers them, or even transforming them into good qualities.
Wow.
It's about finding the right approach for you based on your experience and discernment.
I love that. It's like personalized mental gardening. You need to know your soil, your weeds, and the crops you want to grow a thriving inner landscape. But what about when you feel stuck? Like those weeds just feel overwhelming.
Right.
How do you stay motivated?
That's where the four bases of power come in.
Okay.
These are desire, persistence, intent, and discrimination. They're like the fuel for your practice, giving you energy and direction. Think of them as the wind under your wings, pushing you forward on your journey to awakening.
Wait, desire can be a positive thing.
Yeah.
Isn't desire usually seen as the root of suffering?
Yeah. That's a good question. The book talks about skillful and unskillful desire. Unskillful desire is craving, clinging, attachment, the stuff that leads to suffering.
Right.
But skillful desire is a powerful force for good. It's the wish for freedom, the longing for a better way of being. It's what drives your practice and keeps you moving forward.
So you don't get rid of desire, you transform it into something that helps you awaken.
Exactly. You channel that energy towards something meaningful.
Okay. What about persistence? How do you keep going without becoming rigid or burning yourself out?
Persistence in Buddhism isn't about brute force. It's about understanding that different people and situations need different levels of effort.
Right.
Sometimes you need a gentle but steady approach. Other times, a more intense effort. It's about listening to your body and mind, finding the balance between pushing yourself and respecting your limits.
So it's not about forcing yourself into a strict routine,
Right.
but finding a sustainable rhythm that helps you grow.
Exactly.
Okay, what about intent? What does it mean to cultivate intent in Buddhist practice?
Intent is about setting a clear direction for your mind, a strong commitment to moving toward awakening. It's about making sure your actions, thoughts, and words all go in that direction.
Right.
The book says that intent can both cause and be caused by concentration. It helps you focus your mind, and a focused mind makes your intent clearer. It's a positive cycle.
So it's like setting your compass towards awakening
Yeah.
and making sure your actions match that direction.
Right.
But how is that different from willpower? Isn't willpower often about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do?
Intent in Buddhism isn't about forcing or controlling your mind. It's about developing a deep, unwavering resolve. It's about aligning your actions with your values and what you truly want to achieve.
Okay.
Making choices that help you grow and find freedom. And that brings us to the last base of power, discrimination.
Discrimination. That word has like a lot of baggage in our world today.
I know, right?
What does it mean in Buddhism?
In Buddhism, discrimination just means the ability to see the difference between skillful and unskillful qualities, between what causes suffering and what leads to liberation.
Oh, okay.
It's about using your wisdom to make good choices, to navigate the path well. The book explains that this type of discrimination requires mindfulness and discernment. You need to be aware of what's going on in your mind and see things clearly.
So it's like developing that inner wisdom to make choices that lead to freedom,
Right.
not suffering.
Exactly.
It's like having a mental filter that helps you ignore distractions and focus on what's important.
Yeah.
But we've been talking for a while now, and I'm ready to move on to this set of teachings. The 5 faculties.
Yeah.
They sound intriguing.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious how they fit into this puzzle of awakening. Ready to explore those.
Absolutely. The 5 faculties are another layer in this amazing path to freedom. Let's uncover what they're all about. Welcome back. We're going to keep exploring the 7 sets, those wings to awakening.
Yeah. Last time we got into the 4 frames of reference, the 4 right exertions, the 4 bases of power, and even those first levels of awakening. It's all like coming together.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly.
And today we're adding a few more pieces.
Okay.
We'll be looking at the 5 faculties and the 7 factors for awakening.
Okay.
These sets offer even more guidance on the path to liberation.
Okay. 5 faculties. Well, it sounds kind of cool. Are we talking like superhuman abilities here?
Not exactly superhuman, but they are powerful. Remember, the 5 faculties actually reflect the 5 strengths we talked about. conviction, persistence, mindfulness, concentration, and discernment.
Right.
But here, they're presented as faculties, like something we all have inside us.
So it's like we have these qualities waiting to be unlocked, and practice helps us make them strong.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, I'm in. Let's start with conviction.
Okay?
What are we supposed to be convinced of?
Conviction in Buddhism means having trust and confidence in the path. Trusting what the Buddha taught and believing you can reach awakening. But it's not blind faith.
Right.
It comes from experience and understanding.
Okay. So how do you develop conviction when you're still dealing with doubts?
The book actually encourages us to explore those doubts. Look into the teachings, try them out in your own life, and see if they hold up. It's about developing a discerning faith. Conviction based on your own insights.
So it's like a process of discovery.
Yeah.
You test and refine what you understand until you really trust it.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next faculty.
Yeah.
Persistence. We talked about persistence with the right exertions.
Right.
But here it has a slightly different meaning.
Okay. I can see how persistence would be so important, especially when things get tough.
Right.
But how do you keep going without getting rigid or burning out?
Persistence as a faculty is about finding a sustainable and enjoyable way to practice. It's not forcing yourself into a strict routine or meditating for hours. It's about finding a rhythm that helps you grow without being overwhelming.
Right.
It's like, a marathon versus a sprint. You need endurance to go the distance.
That makes sense. It's about pacing yourself, finding that balance between effort and ease. Okay, what about mindfulness? We hear that word everywhere these days. What does it mean in terms of the 5 faculties?
Mindfulness in Buddhism is paying attention to the present moment with clarity and openness. It's about watching your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judging them or clinging to them. And it's not just for meditation, it's a way of life.
So you bring that present moment awareness to everything.
Exactly. Brushing your teeth, having a conversation, everything.
Wow.
Being fully present in each moment, noticing how rich and complex your experience is without getting distracted or judgmental.
I can see how mindfulness would be essential for handling the ups and downs of life and for the journey to awakening.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about concentration? We've talked about it before, but how does it work as a faculty?
As a faculty, concentration is about building your ability to focus, quieting those mental distractions and cultivating inner stillness.
Right.
It's a kind of mental training for developing deeper states of absorption and insight.
So it's not the same as the focus you need for a work project.
Yeah.
Right. It's a deeper level you get through specific practices.
Exactly. And what's interesting is concentration as a faculty grows naturally as your mindfulness deepens. The more present you are, the more settled and focused your mind becomes. It's like a muddy pool getting clear as the gut settles.
That's a beautiful image. So it's not forcing your mind to be still.
No.
It's about creating the right conditions for stillness to arise naturally.
Exactly. And then we have discernment. We've been talking about it all along, but what makes it so important as a faculty?
Yeah, good question.
Discernment as a faculty is like the result of all the other faculties.
Okay.
It's the ability to see clearly, to understand reality for what it is, and to make wise choices that lead to freedom. It's like the fruit that grows from your practice.
So it's wisdom that comes from developing conviction, persistence, mindfulness, and concentration.
Exactly. And the book highlights that this type of discernment appears naturally as concentration deepens, and your mind becomes clearer and more still. It's like the sun breaking through the clouds and lighting everything up.
Okay, the 5 faculties were starting to sound like superpowers.
Oh, okay.
They're really powerful tools for this journey to awakening. But let's shift gears and talk about the 7 factors for awakening.
Okay.
What are they all about?
The 7 factors for awakening are mindfulness, analysis of qualities, persistence, rapture, serenity, concentration, and equanimity.
Okay.
As these qualities are nurtured and grow, they lead to a peak of clear knowing and release, in other words, awakening.
I recognize some of those, like mindfulness, persistence, and concentration.
Right.
But analysis of qualities and rapture,
Yeah.
those are new.
Yeah.
What are those about, and how do they help with awakening?
Analysis of qualities is sometimes called investigation of states. It's about really examining your experiences, both mental and physical. It's using your wisdom to understand the causes and effects of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's like you become a scientist studying your own mind.
That's cool. What about rapture? What's its role?
Rapture, or you could say joy or delight, is a natural result of practicing skillfully.
Okay.
It's a feeling of lightness, joy, and inspiration that comes as your mind becomes more concentrated and peaceful. It's not about chasing fleeting pleasures, but about cultivating deep inner peace and contentment that naturally leads to joy.
It sounds like a great side effect.
Yeah.
But the book says these 7 factors work together in a loop,
Yes.
each one making the other stronger. Can you explain how that works?
It's a beautiful process.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, which is like the base, leads to analysis of qualities. That then fuels persistence, which leads to rapture. Rapture deepens into serenity, and that helps with concentration. And concentration leads to equanimity. And then equanimity provides a steady base for mindfulness to grow even more, completing the loop.
So it's like a symphony of qualities all working together to create an awakened mind.
Exactly.
I could see how this cycle would build momentum.
Right.
But the book also mentions that these factors are connected to the 4 frames of reference.
Yes.
How so?
It explains that developing any of the 4 frames of reference naturally leads to those 7 factors for awakening. The frames of reference are like the training ground.
Okay.
And the factors for awakening are the skills you develop there.
I see. So as you practice focusing on the body, feelings, mind, or mental qualities, you naturally cultivate mindfulness, discernment, persistence, all those factors. It's all linked together.
Exactly. It shows how the different teachings in Buddhism create a complete path.
That's really insightful. I'm starting to get how complex these teachings are.
Mm-hmm.
Like each part connects to make a beautiful and meaningful whole.
Yeah. And there's more. The book also suggests you can use the 7 factors for awakening to deal with the 5 hindrances.
5 hindrances.
Uh-huh.
What are those and how do they get in the way?
The 5 hindrances are sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. They're like roadblocks in your mind that make it harder to practice.
So it's like a battle in your mind between what helps you awaken and what keeps you stuck.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
The 7 factors are your weapons, and the 5 hindrances are the enemies you need to conquer.
So how do we use these weapons effectively? Can we, match specific factors with specific hindrances?
Yes. The book explains you can target specific hindrances with specific factors.
Okay.
For example, mindfulness and analysis of qualities can help with doubt. Persistence and rapture can help with laziness and that feeling of being stuck. Serenity, concentration, and equanimity can help with restlessness and worry.
It's like having a plan for a mental battle. You have to know your enemy and use the right weapon to win. But how do we develop these 7 factors? Are there certain practices or techniques?
The book emphasizes appropriate attention. This means paying attention to the right things in the right way, figuring out which questions are worth asking and which are just distractions.
Okay.
It's not just about paying attention, it's about doing it skillfully, putting your energy into what really matters.
That makes sense. But how do we know what to focus on? How do we develop that appropriate attention?
The book says we can cultivate appropriate attention by focusing on the 3 characteristics of existence: impermanence, suffering, and non-self.
Okay.
Thinking about these truths helps us let go of attachment to temporary pleasures and the idea that there's a solid self. This creates space for awakening.
So we use the wisdom of the teachings to dismantle those illusions that keep us suffering.
Exactly.
It's about seeing reality clearly with understanding.
Right. And as we develop these 7 factors, the book also emphasizes balance.
Okay.
Like finding the right tension on a string, you need balance between energizing factors like rapture and calming factors like serenity.
That musical analogy again.
I know, right?
It really shows how important harmony and balance are on this path. But how do we know if we're doing it right? Are there any signs?
The book gives a good guideline. It says each factor for awakening should be dependent on seclusion, dependent on dispassion, dependent on cessation, resulting in letting go. This means that as you practice these factors, you'll feel more inner peace, less attachment, and more willing to let go of clinging to your self-identity.
So it's like a gradual process of purifying your mind.
Exactly. And when these factors are fully developed, you enter non-fashioning.
Huh?
It's a state of effortless awareness where ideas of self and other fade away. It's the doorstep to awakening, the gateway to liberation.
Wow. The 7 factors for awakening are powerful. They help us cultivate clarity, wisdom, and ultimately freedom. It's amazing how each set builds on the last one, like layers of understanding.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to get to the grand finale, the Noble Eightfold Path.
Me too.
This seems like where everything comes together.
It is.
I'm ready to explore it.
Great. The Noble Eightfold Path is like the master key to unlock liberation. Let's take this last step on our journey together.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the 7 sets of teachings, those wings to awakening. We've been through a lot, exploring these deep teachings, and now we reach the peak, the grand finale, the Noble Eightfold Path.
I'm excited to see how it all connects. We've talked about the Eightfold Path throughout our conversation.
We have.
But now it's time to really dive into it. It's been called the Buddha's answer to ending suffering.
It has.
And it feels like we've been putting together all the pieces for this final answer.
That's a great way to look at it. The Eightfold Path includes everything we've talked about. It's a guide for living with wisdom and compassion. Okay. It covers every part of us, how we understand things, our thoughts, words, actions, work, effort, mindfulness, and concentration.
Wow, that's a lot to handle. 8 factors, each one a path in itself. Where do we even start?
It can feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the Eightfold Path isn't a checklist you have to finish in order.
You don't have to master one before moving to the next. It's more like they all work together, supporting each other.
So it's like a dance, not a march.
Exactly.
You move between the factors, finding what works for you.
That's the beauty of it. It's adaptable. The book says you can approach it in 2 ways. As guidelines for daily life, and as a framework for meditation. It's about integrating these principles into who you are, both inside and out.
Okay, I see how this path really covers all of life, but let's take it step by step.
Okay.
Starting with right understanding. What does it mean to have right understanding in Buddhism? Is it just about knowing stuff about Buddhism?
Understanding is also called right view.
Okay.
It's about seeing the world through the teachings of the Buddha, especially the 4 Noble Truths.
Okay.
It's understanding the nature of suffering, what causes it, that it can end, and the path to ending it.
So it's not just memorizing facts. It's about really getting these truths and letting them change how you see reality.
Exactly.
Right.
Understanding is the foundation of the whole path. It's the compass, the map that shows you the way, and it's a journey, not something you get overnight.
So understanding sets the stage. What about right thought? How do we cultivate right thoughts with all the noise in our minds?
Right thought is about cultivating thoughts of letting go, goodwill, and harmlessness.
Okay.
It's about releasing thoughts rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion, and replacing them with thoughts that lead to peace and freedom. It's like taking care of a garden, weeding out the bad thoughts and planting seeds of kindness and compassion.
Like a mental detox.
Yes.
Getting rid of the negative stuff and making room for good qualities.
Right.
So right thought shapes our inner world. But what about right speech? How do our words show our progress?
Right. Speech is about being truthful, kind, and helpful in the way you talk. It's about not lying, gossiping, insulting, or speaking harshly.
Okay.
Instead, use your words to create harmony and understanding.
So it's not just what you say, but how you say it. It's about being mindful and compassionate when you communicate.
Right. We understand the power of words and choose to use them well, to create a positive and supportive atmosphere for ourselves and others.
I'm noticing a pattern. Mindfulness, kindness, and focusing on peace and harmony. That's really different from how people usually communicate today.
It does take effort to change those habits, but it's worth it. And these same ideas apply to right action.
Okay.
It's about doing what's ethical and skillful, aligning your actions with your values.
So it's about actively being good and making choices that benefit everyone, not just avoiding bad things.
Exactly.
Right.
Action is living the path, putting these principles into practice in your life, and that includes right livelihood.
So how does our job or career fit into the Eightfold Path? How do we make sure it aligns with these teachings?
Right. Livelihood means choosing a job that doesn't go against the principles of the Eightfold Path.
Okay.
Earning a living ethically without causing harm.
So finding a job that lets you live with integrity. One that supports your spiritual growth, not hinders it.
That's it. It recognizes that our work affects our well-being, and our job should match our values and goals.
This is making me think about my own work and how to bring more of these principles into it. But now we're at 3 factors we've already explored. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Do they have different roles in the Eightfold Path?
In the Eightfold Path, these 3 factors are the heart of Buddhist practice. They're the basis for developing wisdom and ethical conduct.
Oh, great.
Right effort, like we talked about, is about skillfully directing your energy toward awakening, cultivating good qualities and getting rid of the bad ones.
It's about being balanced and mindful in our practice.
Yes.
Finding that sweet spot between pushing too hard and not trying enough.
Exactly. And mindfulness, as we've seen, is about developing deep awareness of what's happening inside us and how we're connected to the world. It's the key to wisdom and freedom.
Right. Concentration is about training our minds to be more focused, steady, and open to wisdom.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that inner stillness where real understanding can happen.
Exactly. These three factors work together, supporting and strengthening each other. They're the central practices that lead to liberation.
The Noble Eightfold Path is an incredible guide. It's complete, holistic, and practical. It feels like a real roadmap to a life of wisdom and compassion. As we finish our deep dive into the 7 sets of teachings, what's the most important thing you take away from it?
What really stands out for me is that anyone can awaken. These teachings aren't just for monks or experts.
Yeah.
They're for everyone who's willing to make the effort. The 7 sets offer a clear path. They're tools we can use to cultivate the qualities of an awakened heart and help create a more peaceful and harmonious world.
It's a powerful message of hope. It reminds us that we can shape our own lives.
Yes.
We can cultivate wisdom and compassion and make a positive impact. All right, let's dive into the Noble Eightfold Path, like the heart of Buddhist teaching on getting to enlightenment. And we've got some seriously detailed source material here.
Oh, yeah, it's packed.
Like way more than just a simple checklist, right?
Absolutely. People often simplify the Noble Eightfold Path, but there's so much more to uncover when you dig into the details.
So for someone who's still kind of new to this, what's the big picture? What makes it so noble?
Well, it's not just about reaching the end. It's about all those qualities you develop along the way. And those actually lead to enlightenment, specifically to something called stream entry. It's like stepping onto a current that'll eventually carry you to liberation.
Okay, so it's a process.
Yeah, and the path itself kind of transforms as you go.
The path transforms. That's a new idea.
Think of it like this. There are 2 levels. The beginning level is where you're consciously working on each aspect.
Right.
But then you reach the noble level where these qualities are so ingrained they just flow naturally, and that leads to the deathless.
Deathless.
Yeah, the ultimate goal, liberation. Total freedom.
Okay, so it's not just checking off boxes. It's like a deep inner shift.
Exactly. And to really get this, it helps to know the 8 factors of the path are grouped into 3 categories: discernment, virtue, and concentration.
So which factors go where?
Right view and right resolve are discernment. Then you've got right speech, action, and livelihood. Those are virtue.
Okay.
And finally, there's right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. They all relate to concentration.
Makes sense. But does this mean any act of discernment, virtue, or concentration is part of the path?
That's where it gets interesting. The source material is pretty clear. Not every instance counts. There's mundane and then there's noble.
So there are nuances, like what makes right view actually right?
Good one. On a basic level, right view is accepting some fundamental truths. Karma, rebirth, the wisdom of enlightened beings.
Right.
It's trusting those teachings.
Like accepting there's a bigger picture and a way to navigate it.
Yes, but the noble level, it goes deeper. It's not just belief, it's direct insight into reality. And get this understanding actually elevates the other parts of the path.
Wow. So right view becomes the lens you see everything else through.
Precisely. And the lines between these categories can even blur. Like, our source material says noble right resolve actually uses elements of jhana. That's meditative absorption, usually part of right concentration.
Wait, resolve, which seems like willpower, is connected to deep meditation.
It is. Shows how interconnected it all is, supporting each other, the whole becoming greater than its parts.
Yeah, fascinating.
And that actually brings up another point the source makes. Right? Concentration is considered the primary factor, with the others as supports.
Why is right concentration so central?
Because those deep meditative states, that's where you gain the insight to truly embody the path. The other factors help create the conditions for right concentration to flourish.
So teamwork, all working towards the same goal.
Exactly. And on that noble level, this teamwork peaks. The 8 factors become so unified that they actually propel the mind toward liberation.
So we've got this path, this transformation. You mentioned stream entry earlier. How does that fit in?
Stream entry is the first level of awakening. Reaching it means you've attained the Noble Eightfold Path.
Got it.
It's all those factors we've been talking about all coming together. Essentially, you're on that stream towards complete enlightenment.
So stream entry is a big deal.
It is. Now, what happens after that, the next 2 levels of awakening, once returning and non-returning, those also need these 8 factors, but even deeper. But to get to arahantship, the highest level, 2 more factors come in: Right knowledge and right release.
For knowledge and right release.
That's
Those are new. Tell me more.
Right knowledge is realizing all your duties related to the Four Noble Truths are done.
Huh.
Like total clarity about your journey, knowing you've done what was needed.
Oh.
Right? Release, though, that's like unshakable concentration.
Right.
Profound inner freedom.
So one seeing the path clearly, and the other's the freedom to let go.
You got it. Now, here's something from the source material that might sound odd. After you reach the goal, you can actually abandon the path.
What? Why abandon something that led to enlightenment?
Well, abandoning here doesn't mean going back to bad habits or rejecting the teachings.
Okay.
It means you don't need the path as a tool anymore. You've arrived.
So like reaching your destination and not needing the map anymore.
Precisely. It's important to remember, awakened individuals still practice meditation, live ethically,
Right.
but not out of obligation, because those things bring joy, peace, connection to the present moment.
That makes sense.
It shows how the path is about a transformation that leads to living with wisdom and compassion.
Yeah, it's not about following rules, it's about embodying them.
Absolutely. And to understand how this transformation unfolds, we got to look at two patterns of development from the source material: the linear causal loop and the holographic formula.
Those sound a bit complex.
They might sound intimidating, but they're actually pretty intuitive. The linear causal loop, that's like a step-by-step progression.
Okay.
Each factor builds on the one before. Like right view leads to right resolve, which leads to right speech, and so on.
Gradual unfolding.
Yeah. Now, the holographic formula, that's about interconnectedness.
Okay.
It's like a hologram, each part contains the whole.
Could you give an example?
Sure. The source material says right view, right effort, and right mindfulness. Those play a crucial role in developing every single factor on the path.
So they're like the foundation.
Exactly. It's not just linear, it's simultaneous development, all these factors influencing each other.
Wow.
Both the linear and holographic patterns, they're in every set of factors, creating this dynamic process of growth. It's a lot like learning to walk, which our source actually uses as an analogy. You have the potential, but you need to coordinate your efforts, refine your skills over time.
That is a great analogy.
Huh.
Emphasizes that the path isn't about becoming something new, it's uncovering what's already there.
You got it. And it's through understanding these details that we can really appreciate the Noble Eightfold Path, how deep and sophisticated it truly is.
I agree. And we've only scratched the surface. We'll continue exploring the specifics of each factor in part 2. See you soon.
Welcome back. It's crazy how much depth we find when we really get into the details of the Noble Eightfold Path.
I know, right? It's like every layer we peel back has even more intricate patterns and connections.
Exactly. And speaking of layers, remember those mundane versus noble levels for each factor? I think those nuances get even clearer when we look at right speech, right action, and right livelihood.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. What are some of the key differences there?
Well, on that mundane level, it's avoiding the obvious no-nos. Lying, stealing, violence, basic ethics.
Don't be a jerk, basically.
Aha, exactly. It's important for a harmonious society, sure, and it sets the stage for deeper growth.
Okay.
But the noble level, it goes beyond just avoiding harm.
Right.
It's about cultivating inner purity and acting from wisdom and compassion.
So it's not just what you do, but why you do it. The intention behind it matters, too.
You got it. The source material really emphasizes the state of mind. For example, noble right speech isn't just avoiding lies or harsh words. It's about speaking in a way that promotes understanding, spiritual growth for everyone involved.
So the difference between following the rules and really embodying the spirit of the rules.
Precisely. And that shift in motivation applies to all three. Noble right action is about acting for the benefit of all beings, not just yourself.
Right.
And noble right livelihood is engaging in work that aligns with your values and contributes to the well-being of the world.
It's fascinating how even things that seem kind of mundane can take on a whole new meaning when you look at them through the lens of the Noble Eightfold Path. Every part of life becomes a chance to practice.
That's the beauty of it. It's not about escaping the world. It's about transforming how we relate to it.
This makes me think about right concentration again. That core element we talked about.
Yeah.
Our source material had some really specific details about that, especially the 4 jhanas.
Yes. These are progressively deeper states of meditative absorption, each with more tranquility and insight.
Right. I remember reading about the jhanas like rapture, pleasure, equanimity, pure awareness.
Yeah.
But why are those states so important?
Because they cultivate the mental stability and clarity to see reality as it is, free from all those layers of delusion that usually cloud our perception. They're like mental training grounds for developing wisdom and insight.
So the jhanas are where we gain the clarity to really see and understand.
Exactly. And remember how we were talking about the other factors supporting right concentration? Well, they help create the right conditions for these deep meditative states to even emerge.
So it's like an interconnected system where everything supports everything else.
Precisely, like an ecosystem. For example, right mindfulness keeps you present. That creates the foundation for right effort, which then sustains your practice of right concentration.
Like a chain reaction of positive qualities, all building on each other.
You got it. And as you progress, that cycle gets more and more refined, leading to that profound transformation we keep talking about. But there's another interesting detail in the source material. The idea that even after achieving the goal, the path can be abandoned.
Yeah, we talked about that before. But wouldn't someone who's awakened still benefit from, meditating and living ethically?
Of course. And that's exactly what the source material says. Awakened individuals still do those things, but not because they have to.
Right.
Because they bring joy, peace, a deeper connection to the present moment.
So like walking because you enjoy walking, not because you have to.
Perfect analogy. The path has become so ingrained, it's not a separate set of rules anymore, it's just how they live.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
It highlights how the Noble Eightfold Path is a journey of self-discovery and transformation.
Yeah. Okay, so we've gone pretty deep on right speech, right action, right livelihood, and revisited right concentration. But we still have 4 more to explore. And those deeper levels of awakening, those sound intriguing.
I agree. There's so much more to uncover. Ready to keep diving.
Absolutely. Let's tackle those final 4 factors in part 3.
Okay, we're back and ready to tackle those last few factors of the Noble Eightfold Path: right effort, right mindfulness, right resolve, and we can't forget that first one, right view.
Yeah, these really show how intricate and connected everything is on this path.
As we've been talking, I keep coming back to that analogy of learning to walk.
Yeah.
It really highlights how, gradual but also transformative this whole process is.
It's perfect. Just like a kid needs to coordinate their muscles and, practice, find their balance, we need to cultivate these different factors, let them get stronger and work together.
And it's not just about, pushing yourself with effort, right? Remember how right view, right effort, and right mindfulness are key for developing all the other factors? Absolutely. It's like having the vision, the drive, and the awareness to stay on track.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, like guiding lights, illuminating the path, helping you get around obstacles.
So let's talk about right effort. What kind of effort are we even talking about here?
Well, it's not about pushing yourself till you burn out. Right? Effort is more about cultivating a sustained and skillful way of practicing.
Okay.
It's about consistently directing your energy towards what's wholesome, what's beneficial.
So quality over quantity.
Precisely. The source material actually mentions 4 types of right effort: preventing unwholesome qualities from even coming up, abandoning the ones that are already there, cultivating good qualities, and strengthening those good qualities that you already have. It's like a gardener tending to their plants.
I like that.
Carefully nurturing their growth.
And how does right mindfulness fit in with all this?
Right. Mindfulness is about developing a clear awareness, a present awareness of your body, your feelings, thoughts, mental states. It's observing them without judging, letting you see how impermanent and interconnected they all are.
So it's about understanding ourselves better, how our minds work.
Exactly. And that understanding is crucial for making good choices and directing your effort in the right way. Remember how right view sets the stage? Well, with right mindfulness, you can actually see those teachings in your own experience.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So where does right resolve come into all of this?
Right. Resolve is all about setting that clear intention to move towards liberation and to cultivate qualities like renunciation, goodwill, harmlessness.
Okay.
It's the fuel for your effort, keeps you moving forward.
Like having a compass and a map, knowing where you want to go and how to get there.
Exactly. And remember, even though we're breaking these down one by one, they're all deeply interconnected. Right resolve fuels right effort, which is guided by right mindfulness, all within the framework of right view. It's really a beautiful dance of qualities all working together.
Yeah, this is really painting a picture of the path for me.
Good.
It's not just rules, it's this dynamic, evolving process.
You're getting it. And even though the source mentions abandoning the path once you reach the goal, it's clear that awakened beings still embody these qualities, It's become their natural way of being.
It's like reaching mastery, where the skills just become effortless, joyful even.
Exactly. The path isn't a struggle anymore, it's an expression of their awakened nature.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I mean, we've really explored the Noble Eightfold Path, uncovered so many fascinating details.
It's been great exploring these concepts with you. The depth and sophistication of these teachings are really remarkable.
I agree. And, what's striking me is that even though this path leads to profound personal liberation, it's not about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about cultivating qualities that benefit everyone.
That's such a key point. Ultimately, the Noble Eightfold Path is about cultivating wisdom and compassion for ourselves and for all beings. It's a path that leads to a more awakened and interconnected way of living.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we've come to the end of our journey into the Noble Eightfold Path. We hope this exploration has been insightful and inspiring for you.
It's been a privilege to dive into these details with you. May this understanding inspire continued growth and discovery on your own path.
Until next time, keep diving deep.